olfaction. Olfactions is the or sense of smells occur in response to airborne molecules called odor that enter the nasal cavity. The human olfactory system works when odorant molecules bind to specific sites on the olfactory receptors, which are used to detect the presence of smell. So your sense of smell is the part of the chemosensory system or the chemical senses. The sense of smells let us capture smells from substances. The sense organ of smell is the nose. Smell travel through air and enter through the nostrils. The N arrive at the nasal cavity. In this information, travel or transmit the smell signals to the brain through the olfactory nerve. In this brain, where identify the smells, where there the smells are pleasant or unpleasant, good or bad. Humans can detect smell up to 10,000 odors, but one of the other is still unknown. The sense of smell is the most sensitive, so we need to take care of it because sometimes we lose our sense of smells. The sense of smell is like the sense of taste. It is the part of the chemosensory system that are highly specialized sensory system of which smell and taste are prototypical, for example, sweet or bitter. And when your mother cooking a dinner, you can smell so good that you can almost taste it. Your nose and mouth work together to deliver signals that your brain translate into the flavor of a food. The function. The sense of smells allows us to perceive and to differentiate the odors. Based on the emotions evoked by different odors, they are classified into positive, negative, or neutral. Smell receptors are chemical receptors and telereceptors. Adequate stimuli are odor molecules dispersed in the air. Importance of smell. Smells is an important sense as it can alert us to danger like gas leak, fire, or rotten food, but also is closely linked to parts of the brain that process emotions and memory. Unpleasant and bad smells actually send pain signals to the brain to warn us to possible danger.
Hey guys, now I'm going to give you a brief explanations on how nose work. As we all know that your nose let you smell, breath in the main gate for the respiratory system. And it is all start with the nostrils, which is the entrance point of your nose, separated by the wiggly wall in the middle called the septum, made of a very thin piece of skin in bone known as a cartilage. Right behind your nose is a space called the nasal cavity that connect with the back of the throat as you inhale the air through your nostrils. It enters the nasal passages and travels into your nasal cavity, then the air moves downward through the trachea, generally known as the windpipe, all the way to the lungs, then the whole process occurs in reverse order as you exhale the air out. Did you know the smelling part in our nose, the reason why we can smell different things around us is because of the olfactory epithelium? The olfactory epithelium contains a special receptor that notice the smell and send the signal along the olfactory nerve to the olfactory bulb. And finally, those signals go others part of the brain to be interpreted as a smell. You may recognize if it is in that way you may recognize if it is food, fruit, or flowers. These are the several important functions of the nose in our body. It allows air to enter your body, contribute to how you look and how you sound when you speak, filters and clean air to remove particles and allergens. So your nose is not limited to acting as a passageway for air. It is also a warms, moistens, and filters the air before it goes to the lungs with the help of moistened layer of tissue called a mucous membrane, which makes mucus that sticky stuff in your nose is not. Does not work your hair to trap unwanted small particles like dust and germs that could be harmful to your lungs. When these capture dirt twice up along with the mucus, you get boogers. So we need to appreciate the boogers as they are formed in the process of protecting your lungs. Your nose also provide a sense of smell and warm as what I said, it warm and moisten air so into your respiratory system. These are the internal part of a human nose, the structure and their function also. Okay, let's start with the nasal septum. Nasal septum separate the left and right airway of a nasal cavity, dividing the two nostrils. The nasal cavity function to humidify, warm, filter, and act as a conduit for inspired air, as well as protect the respiratory tract through the use of the mucosa. The nasal cavity also houses the receptor responsible for the olfactions. And then olfactory nerves, it relies sensory data to the brain and it's responsible for the sense of smell. And then cribriform plate. The cribriform plate is perforated by the olfactory foramen which allow for the passage of the olfactory nerve to the roof of the cavity. This convey information from the smell receptor to the brain. The glomerulus is the basic unit in the audio map of the olfactory bulb. And then olfactory bulb is the processing station in the central olfactory pathway. Then the olfactory tract, the function of the olfactory tract is to connect the olfactory bulb to the multiples area within the central of the brain.
The external of nose. The external of nose is consists of a root, nose braids, apex, nostrils, and ala. The external of nose is function to protect the inner of nose and allows the entry of air. The first external part of the nose is root. The nasal root is the top of the nose that attach the nose to the forehead. The nasal root is above the braids and below the glabella, forming an indentation known as the notion at the frontonasal suture where the frontal bone meets the nasal bones. The next part of the nose is the braids or dorsum. It has considerable influence over the aesthetics of the nose parcels as and the entire face. It is called braids because it connects the tip of the nose to the face. And the next is the tip of the nose. It is the part of the nose furthest from the plane of the face. In rare circumstances, such as markedly prominent and convex nasal profiles, other parts of the ridge may be further removed from the facial plane. The next part of the nose is the nostrils. When you inhale air through your nostrils, the air enters the nasal passage and travels into your nasal cavity. The last part is the ali. The ali of the nose or wings of the nose is the lower lateral surface of the external nose, shaped by the alar cartilage and covered in dense connective tissue. The ali flare out to form a round eminence around the nostrils.
The olfactory valve structures are located in the forebrain of the vertebrates that receive neural input above others detected by the cells in nasal cavity. The axons of olfactory receptor, smell receptors, cells extend directly into the highly organized olfactory valve where information about other is processed. The olfactory valve is a structure found on the inferior bottom side of the cerebral. The olfactory valve are responsible for receiving information about smells from the nose and send it to the brain by the way of olfactory valve. Then, try to look at the structure of olfactory valve and the receptor. As you can see, olfactory valve located at the forebrain of the vertebrate that responsible for receiving a neural input about odor that detect by the cells in nasal cavity. Like for example, the smell of perfume aroma. Through the help of olfactory valve, the nose is directly detected information of what type of perfume it smells like. Again, the olfactory valve are responsible for receiving information about smells from the nose and sending it to the brain by the way of olfactory valve. Otherwise, in this example, the olfactory valve is the primary processing of other information.
The human sense of smell. Although the human sense of smell is feeble compared to that of many animals, it is still very acute. We can recognize thousands of different smells, and we are able to detect others even in infinitesimal quantities. Our smells function is carried out by two small odor detecting patches made up to about 5 or 6 million yellowish cells high up in the nasal passage.
Let's talk about the animal smell. The sense of smell is very important to almost all animals as it helps them find food, recognize the family members, and avoid dangers. For example, the nostrils of fish and shark let them to smell underwater. Even though they are breath, the water thought their mouths and gills. The some animals, like dolphins and whales, they have the loss of sense of smell as over millions of years their nostrils they have the moved to the top of the heads and evolved the into blowers. The way smells are felt by the nose and the brain is very similar in all animals. Even the way olfactory neurons work is also very similar to that of insect. But insects they smell they using their antennae, not with nostrils. The way the brain deals with the smell is very different to how it deals with the other senses, such as the seeing and the hearing. For example, we can identify the different instrument, the playing in a band, or the different the shape and the colors, and a painting. But it is very hard for us to tell the individual parts of smell mixture. We can feel the smell, the orange or coffee, as a single things, but have troubles identifying the many different parts that they mix up the those smell the individually. However, it is possible to get the better at this with the practice. Professional when testers or perfume the makers they can detect the more parts of the smell than the most people.
Difference of human smell and animal smell. Human beings do not have a barometrical organ like receptors have been found in the human olfactory organ. And also, human smell is weak, they only smell it when enclosed. Animals have the barometrical organ located at the top of the mouth. There is no doubt that many animals have a sense of smell far superior than humans because it is the use to find what they are looking like a food and so on. Why animals smell is better than humans? Because most vertebrates have many more olfactory nerve cells and proportionately larger olfactory epithelium than humans, which probably gives them much more sensitivity to odors. This change is important in reproduction, allowing many animals to sense sexual attractant odors or pheromones, thus governing mating behaviors. The odors compared between species also have to be same that sounds obvious, but well humans have shaped
around 3,300 different scents, but the highest number for animals is 81 by spider and monkeys. Birds are widely depicted for having a robust sense of smell and for a good reason despite their smaller brain size. Compared to humans, the part of their brain that controls their smell is 5 times larger than humans.
There are many types of smell disorders or olfaction disorders. The number one is anosmia. Anosmia is the complete loss of the sense of smell. Without your smell, you cannot smell the scents of the flower, perfume, nor foods. Anosmia can be dangerous to yourself. For example, without the sense of your smell or without the ability to detect odor, you cannot smell the smoke from a fire or a gas leak. The most common cause of anosmia are nasal congestion from cold, allergy, sinus infections, and poor air quality. The second most common cause of anosmia is a damage to nerve caused by viruses or other type of infection, and COVID is one of the nasal presentation for a lot of the people who lose their sense of smell and taste. Other anosmia causes include nasal polyps, a small non-cancerous growth in the nose and sinuses that blocks the nasal passage, and also the injury to the nose and smell nerves from surgery or head trauma, damage to brain, damage to olfactory pathway, and toxins. The obvious sign of anosmia is a loss of smell. Some people with anosmia notice a change in the way things smell. For example, familiar things begin to lack odor. The psychological effects of anosmia are sadness, lack of interest to eat, and emotional blunting. Standard treatment for anosmia are nasal washing, steroid nasal spray, surgery to straighten the nasal septum, and surgery to have nasal polyps removed. Other support program includes series of IV infusions, PRP nebulizer, and brain training. The second type of smell disorder is hyposmia. Hyposmia is very similar to anosmia. However, anosmia is a totally or completely loss of smell, meaning you cannot smell anything. But hyposmia is a decreased sense of smell. It is not a totally lack of smell or losses of your smell. Hyposmia is a less smell or a decreased ability to detect odors through your nose. The, cause of the causes of hyposmia is also similar to anosmia. The most common cause of this sudden smell loss is nasal blockage. Having inflammation in the nose from a cold, allergies, or an upper respiratory tract infection can cause swelling, which blocks smell particles from reaching the top of the nasal cavity where the smell or olfactory nerve is located. It is normally to have decrease or loss of smell during an active cold or sinus infection. However, it is less common to have decreased sense of smell when you're not feeling ill. Treatment for hyposmia starts with figuring out the cause. So seeing an ENT or ear, nose, and throat specialist about these conditions is very important, starting with a thorough medical history and nasal exam. This may include a CT scan or MRI of the nose and sinuses. Specialized smell tests can help determine how much loss of smell you may have experienced.
Have you noticed that familiar things suddenly smell unpleasant? It could be parosmia, a disorder in which the odors of certain things, or in some cases, everything, are distorted. This happens when smell receptor cells in your nose, called olfactory sensory neurons don't detect odors and translate them to your brain the way they should. Usually, the smell is bad or even revolting. For example, if you sniff a banana instead of smelling fruity and pleasant, your nose may pick up a foul odor like rotting flesh. If you have parosmia, your main symptom will be sensing a persistent foul odor, especially when food is around. You may also have difficulty recognizing or noticing some scents in your environment, a result of damage to your olfactory neuron. Some causes of parosmia: smoking and chemical exposure. For this some reason, exposure to toxic chemicals and high volumes of air pollution can cause parosmia to develop. More often, people who have tumors experience phantasmia, the detection of a scent that is not present because of a tumor, triggering the olfactory senses. Since the effects of this coronavirus on your olfactory system are still being researched, it's important to know that information about short-term and long-term effects on your sense of smell are still coming to light. At the same time, parosmia as part of your COVID-19 recovery can be difficult, as it may change your enjoyment of and desire for certain foods. You may also consider discussing olfactory retraining with your doctor. Some says there's no treatment for parosmia that happens because of a viral infection like COVID-19 or a head injury. Damaged nerves in your nose and nasal cavity can grow back, so your sense of smell may partially or fully return without treatment. Phantasmia is a condition that causes you to smell odors that aren't actually present. When this happens, it's sometimes called an olfactory hallucination. The types of odor people smell vary from person to person. Some might notice the odor in just one nostril, while others have it both. The odor may come and go, or it may be constant. If you are eating, drinking, or just sitting around, you sense this odor. It becomes difficult to eat or drink. The odors range from bad, burning, smoky, smelling of tobacco or sulfur gas, rotten, sickening, to indescribable. While the symptoms of phantasmia can be alarming, they're usually due to a problem in your mouth or nose rather than your brain. In fact, 52 to 72% of conditions affecting your sense of smell are related to a sinus issue. Phantasmia because of a cold, sinus infection, or respiration infection must depart on its own as soon as the illness clears. Treatment for phantasmia varies depending on the underlying cause of the phantom odor. Phantasmia may be a signal of a severe underlying condition, so people need to discuss this symptom with their physician.